All right, welcome to week 9 of Beat the Odds. We're halfway through the season, so it's time for midterm grades. See which teams and which one of us is getting an F. Beat the Odds starts right now.
From our Las Vegas studios, this is Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, and powered by Sports Grid.
And here we go. Welcome inside our Las Vegas studio. I'm Dave Hall.
And I'm Mariah Janos. The midterm grades are in. As for the A's, Kansas City, Detroit, Green Bay, and the surprise team, Washington.
As for the Fs, Carolina, Tennessee, and the biggest disappointment, Aaron Rodgers and his squad.
I was going to say Jack, but we could go with that, too.
We're getting there. Okay. Trust me, we're getting there.
Oh, perfect.
Coming up, he's already mad. Coming up on today's show, we're going to hand out some more midterm grades, talk about the biggest disappointment so far, and as always, the boys will have their best bets.
Plus, we are getting Brandon Marshall's thoughts on the first half of the season. Who could win MVP? The guys from Sports Grid are back, too.
Hey, Vegas, we're excited to beat the odds with you guys once again. Coming up, Joe Lisi and I will take a look at two running backs with way different performances. An awesome one out of James Cook and a real letdown from Kenneth Walker in the same game. What does it mean moving forward? We'll let you know, so sit tight, and we'll join you guys in a bit. It's back to the crew out in Vegas.
All right, so our bosses have given us midterm grades as well. Teddy, you're the star student as you get an A again.
Such a ridiculous
you get
scale.
Another A.
I mean,
now, Jack, you also get an A. However, your citizenship grade, it needs work, man.
F for fantastic. You have a harder grading scale than my 10th grade biology teacher, and I was actually dating his daughter. So that's
why.
That's what's a problem.
Wow.
So hard grading scale.
Now, Mariah also gets an F, but her F is fabulous.
Yeah.
I don't know how I always lose in these things, similar to what Chicago did this last week, and what they figured out a way to grab defeat from the jaws of victory with some of our stunners and shockers.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. And we're going to start with some shockers. A couple of really tough beats on totals this past weekend. Houston, Indy, over. You got over 45, over 45 and a half is 23-20. It's first and goal. All you need is a field goal. What happens? Oh, a fumble. Oh, a fumble return touchdown. Oh, it gets called back. Oh, punt. Guess what? No points at the end of that one. 23-20 final. Tough for overbettors. Maybe just as bad for Seattle Buffalo. The over in that game. So it's total sitting at 45 at 31-10. You need one touchdown. Seattle, well, they're 4th and 19 and they're going to go for it, which is perfect. Except for that, then they get a delay of game penalty, and now it's 4th 24, and they decide to punt. And then they muff the punt on the other way back, and guess what? No points down the stretch of that one. Another one with lots of chances, and the under still cashes. But of course, you mentioned Chicago and Washington. When the defensive back is chirping with the crowd and not paying attention to play, funny things like that happen. Not that Chicago was the right side in that game, but if you had Chicago, that was as tough as it gets.
Yeah, for 40 minutes they looked lost. I mean, the lesson is about 20% of these games on any given weekend, you're going to have a roller coaster ride that ends in you ripping a ticket up. But it's how do you battle through that? What do you do afterwards? That's going to determine your long-term wins and losses.
I mean, it was truly the most shocking Hail Mary since you landed your wife.
At least that. And I was rushing more than 3 at the time. I mean, I was coming out all hands on deck trying to get that done. So.
Yeah, I bet.
Of course, we had some stunners this past weekend as well, which we got to talk about. Cincy losing by 20 at home to Philly. Of course, some of us might have predicted that one right here on this show. Arizona with 2 late scores shocks Miami. Arizona's a first-place team in the West right now, which is certainly a surprise to many people. And, of course, we had a bunch of win but don't covers. KC allows the backdoor touchdown to LV. And what happened? We saw Green Bay not cover. We saw Houston not cover. Get the win, but not the money. And, of course, the books got buried. Detroit and Denver money. Those were 2 bad results for the house.
All right, hang tight, fellas. It's been an up-and-down season for Vegas sportsbooks as well so far this season. Mariah is at the Superbook Westgate, Las Vegas, with more.
Thanks, Dave. I'm here with EVP of Superbook Operations, Jay Cornegay. Jay, we got 8 weeks down in pro football. Just looking back at weeks 1 through 8, how did the books do overall in that first half?
Well, it's been a tale of 2 months here. We were really looking good in the first part of the season as parity took over. A lot of upsets, a lot of underdogs covering. So September was great. October, not so much. October has been very much a struggle for all the books, as all the favorites have dominated over the last few weeks.
And has there been any team from the start of the season that's really given the books trouble?
The troubling teams are the popular teams, and lately it's been Detroit. Detroit's been very popular over the last few weeks, so they haven't treated the books very well. Dallas, ever since they lost that game against New Orleans at home, got blown out by New Orleans. They've been a problem for us because they haven't been covering for us over the last few. And then you go to Kansas City. Kansas City just seems to win every single week. But it's more of money line parlays with Kansas City. Every single money line out there seems to have Kansas City on it, and we haven't had that upset yet.
And heading into the weekend, any early action you're seeing?
Well, some of the early action has come in on Cleveland. I guess there's a lot of Winston believers out there. That line has gone from 3 down to 2, so Cleveland's getting some attention. Los Angeles. Visiting Seattle. Los Angeles has also been getting some early action going up north.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. Dave, we'll send it back to you in studio.
Thanks to you guys. So apparently Jack and Teddy need hugs today. Jack's next segment is about heartbreak, and Teddy's is about disappointment. Wait, are we talking football or their love lives? Guess we'll find out next.
It's a mixture of both, but before we head to break, happy National Tight Ends Day. On the holiday, that San Francisco tight end George Kittle made famous. Kittle went for 128 receiving yards versus Dallas. That's the 8th game of his career with at least 125 receiving yards, moving him into second place all time for a tight end. Which tight end does he still trail? The answer coming up next.
Beat the Odds is sponsored by Superbook Westgate Las Vegas and powered by Sports Grid.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you on National Tight Ends Day, the holiday's founder, George Kittle, went for 128 receiving yards versus Dallas. That's the 8th game of his career with at least 125 receiving yards, moving him into second place all time for a tight end. But who does he still trail? The answer, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, has the all-time games record with at least 125 receiving yards by a tight end with 9. We thought it wasn't going to be that obvious, but I guess it was. All right, let's bring in our guy, Brandon Marshall. First half of the season down. There have been a lot of, I guess, changing of the guards for some teams, but what's been the biggest surprise for you?
Well, in my opinion, the biggest surprise is the entire NFC North, right? Every team in the NFC North is above 500. If you'd have told me that at the start of the season, I would have said no way. Not Chicago, especially not Minnesota, right? So the fact that every team in the NFC North is above 500 has to be the biggest surprise.
We've certainly seen some regression this season as well. So what's been the biggest disappointment? Either a whole player or just a team, maybe a little combination?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the low-hanging fruit, and because of Hard Knocks, and it's New York, right? It's Aaron Rodgers in New York. They're 2-6. I can't believe they lost to New England. And I know that's your squad, right? They lost to New England last week. There's no reason for that, no rhyme or no reason. Their season's over. They thought it was their head coach. Clearly, it wasn't him. And I don't even know if we could just blame all of Aaron Rodgers. It's him, but it's a culmination of things. So that's the biggest disappointment for sure.
For sure, that championship window that was cracked open no longer exists. Sealed shut there. All right, MVP candidates, who are you predicting, or who's a good person to watch?
Well, I'm going to give you a few names, but one thing we have to do is we have to take out Patrick Mahomes, okay? People keep saying that, he may win, and I get it. They're undefeated, but at the end of the day, he has more interceptions than touchdowns at this point of the season, and that's a problem. He shouldn't be in it, right? But give you 4 names. Lamar Jackson, of course, he's killing it. Josh Allen, killing it. Jared Goff is killing it, but also Derrick Henry, right? Now, Derrick will not win it. It's a quarterback award, but Derrick Henry is playing lights out, and he should be in the conversation.
Do you think Jaden Daniels should be in that conversation? Or is he too young? Is that more of a rookie?
Not yet. I don't even know about if it's about him being young.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's done enough. Now if Washington does end up getting a #1 seed or top 2 seeds, then that's a different conversation, right? Because typically wins help. But I don't know if he should be in it yet.
All right, we'll circle back to that one then, Brandon. Thank you so much. Apparently, Jack's little heart got broken last week. Wah, wah, wah. Here he is with 2 heartbreakers to
Yeah, not heartbroken. By the way, let me apologize for her. That was inappropriate for her to say that Travis Kelce was Taylor Swift's boyfriend with you in the room. there's enough of him to go around. I promise you that.
Hey, 270 pounds.
Exactly. Coming and going. Here we go. So we've got a couple of different angles this week. This time, middle of the season, you want to look at a couple of different trends. One, who hasn't played anybody to this point and might be stepping up in class, or a couple teams in that situation. But I want to focus on teams that I think we saw the beginning of the end in some really glaring situations. Dallas, after a bye, goes to San Francisco, looks heartless. Their secondary doesn't want to tackle anybody. This is a team that was struggling before the bye, certainly at home. I think they continue that, as this is a team that is going to end up playing some divisional opponents here over the next month or so. I think that does not bode well for them at all. This team is lost right now with Prescott at the helm. The other one is Chicago. We talk about the Hail Mary, but the reality is for about 40 minutes of that game, they were being absolutely dominated. Their offense looked lost, offensive line not blocking anybody. Now they get Arizona that's leading their division. This is an Arizona team that's quietly winning a bunch of football games. Head coach for Chicago, 3-17 straight up on the road. This is not a good situation. His seat got much hotter. I have as much a problem with the Hail Mary. I'd have a problem with them only rushing 3 in that situation, and the fact that for 40 minutes they were outplayed. So those are a couple teams to look forward over the next couple of weeks to play against.
Yeah, that Hail Mary kind of covered up what had already been happening.
Big problems with Chicago.
And Teddy, you have more.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about disappointments. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers and company at the top of the list. The 5-game skid, 3 of them you can blame on the kicker, who went on IR this week. So maybe that'll help. Of course, Cincinnati. We look at Cincinnati as a major disappointment this season. Their 3 wins have come against opponents with a combined record of 5-18. They're not playing good football. Jacksonville, we saw the offense finally work last week, and the defense got gashed. 3-11 their last 14 games from a team that was about to be the AFC South champ last year. And, of course, New Orleans has to be in the disappointment list now. 2-0 start, 0-6 since, although they are getting healthier.
Gotta love that Aaron Rodgers on a team, we're blaming it on kickers. Let's go there immediately.
Well, we can't blame it on him.
Right?
We know that. Okay, you know who's really cooking right now? A guy named Cook. Here is Sports Grid with more.
Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi here, looking at some of the overperformers from the Sunday slate, or maybe what is going to be a new normal. Buffalo's back. James Cook finds the end zone twice. That is his second multi-rushing touchdown game this year, which is incredible considering his career high for a single season in rushing touchdowns entering this year was 2. Is Josh Allen going to seemingly let James Cook get this type of work for the remainder of the year, Joe?
It seems that way, Kevin. He's really coming into his own this coming season. Credit the offensive line. Even when James Cook was out of the lineup, we saw Ty Johnson and even sweet baby Ray Davis have success on the ground. The offensive line is opening up holes, and James Cook should duplicate that type of productivity this coming weekend. Speaking
of touchdowns, finally, Travis Kelce hits the end zone for the first time. It only took 7 games. He paired it with 10 grabs and 90 yards. We know that Kansas City is not working with a full deck, and it's requiring Travis Kelce to step up, and he's now starting to do it.
He is, and in big games, Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes have that quarterback to wide receiver relationship. They're facing a Tampa Bay defense that allowed Atlanta's tight end Kyle Pitts to have 91 yards through the air, 2 big touchdowns en route to that victory. So Travis Kelce should have success against Tampa Bay's defense this weekend.
Now, an overperformer, yet again, I don't know, maybe it's not surprising, Joe. Jameis Winston, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns in a win over Baltimore. Maybe the win is surprising, but we've seen this for 2 years now. If anybody other than Watson is quarterbacking Cleveland, they're going to throw it for 300-plus yards.
They are, and Jameis Winston, 337, 3 touchdowns. They pick up the victory against one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. He's got 60 yards better than Deshaun Watson in terms of his pregame total. From the gambling perspective, expect Jameis Winston to eat off of that defense this coming weekend. They play L.A. Jameis Winston should produce.
I'm going to continue to keep an eye on the Jerry Jeudy numbers. Finished that game 5 for 79 on 8 targets. Still, I think the most talented pass catcher in that room for Cleveland. All stuff we will keep an eye on for you with Sports Grid.
All right, get ready for the most intense segment in sports betting TV. It's our player prop showdown, and it's next.
Before we take another timeout, with a successful Hail Mary in Week 8, Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels became the third rookie since 1950 with at least 300 yards passing, 50 yards rushing, and no interceptions in a game. But what other two rookies have done that? The answer after the break.
You're watching Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, and powered by Sports Grid.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you, with a successful Hail Mary in Week 8, Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels became the third rookie since 1950 with at least 300 yards passing, 50 yards rushing, and no interceptions in a game. But what other two rookies have done that? The answer, Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert. The two accomplished that feat in 2020 for Philly and LA, respectively.
Yeah, definitely a fun time to be a Washington fan. They deserve it. It's been a long time. And you guys deserve this. Scan that QR code. It's our website, beattheoddstv.com. Now let's send it back to Sports Grid.
Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi here, taking a look at some of the letdown performances this past Sunday. And you have to go to Chicago. And look, the Hail Mary by Jaden Daniels was the cherry on top. Before that, though, they were going to be able to cover up what was one of the most disappointing games Caleb Williams has played, pro or college. The Washington defense has been bad all year. Maybe they're rounding into form, or maybe they picked on a rookie QB. Caleb Williams, 10 for 24, 131 yards, no touchdowns. That was very, very underwhelming.
It was. He pressed a little bit going up against Jaden Daniels, and that Washington offense wanted to perform, show that he was the best quarterback in the draft class. A lot of the throws, Kev, were short to intermediate checkdowns. Expect a bounce-back performance. He's facing Arizona. Arizona playing very well, back-to-back wins over L.A. and Miami, but they did give up a ton of yards to two in that passing attack. Look for Caleb Williams to bounce back in a big way this weekend.
I still think he's trying to figure out who his number one guy is, and having talent like DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Keenan Allen shouldn't be a negative, but I don't know if he has a go-to guy when they get kind of behind it, and that maybe changes the rhythm. The go-to man in Atlanta should be Drake London, though he didn't really pop in their divisional matchup with Tampa Bay. Maybe he can get going against a Dallas defense that continues to be leaky, Joe?
Yep, absolutely. And you look at George Kittle's performance on Sunday night for San Francisco, 128 yards, receiving multiple touchdowns. Drake London is a player that can attack that Dallas secondary. A lot of internal turmoil for Dallas heading into this matchup. Yep. Look for Drake London to have a positive impact on Sunday.
I think Drake London will play well. I will say I do not view him in the class of the very best in this sport when we talk number one wideouts, and I think that leads to the inconsistent performances that we see. Lastly, Kenneth Walker, Seattle as a whole, a terrible performance from this offense, highlighted by his underwhelming effort against Buffalo.
Geno Smith was the leading rusher for Seattle against Buffalo. Kenneth Walker, inconsistent. They're going up against a hot defense in L.A. and Sean McVay. We'll see how it plays out this weekend.
A big one in that division with it still all to play for.
All right, so their idea of bicep curls involved 12-ounce cans, but no matter. It's Teddy and Jack in our player prop showdown. Today, you guys are going to debate Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I do have a problem area in here. I need to work back for sure. Yeah, Pilates or something. Here's the thing, guys. Dak Prescott is losing his mind. I don't think he's been very good right now. I don't think he's playing very well. He's only throwing to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is not going to get him over these numbers, over these passing yards on a regular basis. I like under in this one. I also think Atlanta, all they have to do is just stay ahead of the chains, win time of possession, then they can take shots play action-wise, which is going to keep scoring down a little bit. Dallas is so predictable in what they're doing. I think this passing yard total is absolutely under with Dak Prescott on a team that's heading the wrong way fast.
So I'll go over the total with Dak, and it starts with this. He went over this number against Baltimore. He went over the number against Pittsburgh and New Orleans already. So he's going over numbers bigger than this. Dallas, they're stepping down in class. Think about who they played the last 2 weeks, Detroit, San Fran. Those two teams could meet for the NFC title this year. There's urgency for Dallas. This is, as close to a must-win as there is. What do you need? They need to score points. And Dallas can't run to win. Their passing game is what they have. Atlanta just gave up, 330 to Baker with no receivers last week? Give me Dak over his passing yard.
Dallas has been a need win for about 2 months now, so I'm not sure that matters.
We should go do some of them curls after the show.
Exactly.
All right, so can Jameis Winston light up another defense? Can Miami hang with Buffalo? These guys have their best bets next. All right, welcome back to Beat the Odds. So every Monday we do like a big group call to talk about and plan the show for the week.
Yeah, and this Monday Jack requested more time in this last segment to just talk away, have some fun. Yeah. So what would you like to talk about?
I just think it's important that people get to know everybody at the table. So
that's fair. I think they've gotten to know you pretty well. So
can I make a suggestion?
Of course.
We should talk about football.
Football.
I knew you were going to go there.
And
best bets, right?
If you're interested.
Okay.
You guys interested?
Take it away.
Let's do it. Let's talk about Miami plus the points in Buffalo. And look, there's urgency. It really is now or never time for a team that had QB injuries, are healthier now, and still have a chance and a schedule that's easy enough to make a late season run. So it really is urgent time for Miami. And of course, Tua came back last week, and guess what? Miami's offense came back last week. Season high in points, season high in yards. Those are positive signs moving forward. Buffalo, 3-0 against the spread their last three, 5-2 against the spread for the season. Starting to reach the point that maybe they're getting a little bit overvalued. And let's not forget, I understand Miami's a sub-500 team. I don't view them as a sub-500 team moving forward. Buffalo has 0 wins this season against teams above 500.
Teddy likes the now or never. I'm going to go with something I think we can count on. If Jameis Winston, you got extra points for before conferences or press conferences afterwards, I would go over with them every week. But I don't think that's the case. I think we're going to get more of a regression out of Jameis Winston. Cleveland's offense has been dismal all year. And Los Angeles has been an absolute under machine. Let's go under the total in LA Cleveland.
All right, another great show. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week for Beat the Odds.